Welcome, Walnut. I'm Lara, but you can call me Laz, your host for Walnut Wednesday. This is your reminder to be brave, be yourself, and know that you can make the world a better place just by what you decide today. Here, I'm going to share my weekly walnuttings with you on a Wednesday. Hello, Walnut. Happy Walnut Wednesday. It is me, Laz, here for another episode, and I am here, and I am back with my beautiful favorite person in the whole wide world, Elliott Rose. Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me again, my love.
Welcome back for the fourth, fifth, 500th
I don't
time.
know. We're just clocking up the tallies. Like I'm just pestering you with episodes.
Honestly, like these conversations are just really, really cool because Elliott Rose is, if you don't know and have not met her yet, is my really good friend, biz bestie of all time, my co-woo-woo witch love of my life, client, my boss. So how do we even describe our little love story, Elliott Rose? I don't even really know.
I don't even really know. It's just a love story, which feels very appropriate for like romance author life.
It so is. Now, do you want to quickly just introduce yourself for the walnuts who are like, what is this Laz just gushing about? If you could just
what is
tell us
this
who you are.
So, hi, hello. I'm Elliott Rose. I write steamy, spicy, swoony indie romance that is in the paranormal, supernatural, deliciously dark fantasy world realms. I have my Nocturnal Hearts series that at the time that we're recording this, we are kind of heading towards the launch date of book 4. We were just talking about it before we jumped on to record that when this comes out, we'll be kind of gearing up towards it, but that'll be coming out at the end of August. And I work from home. I write from home in a tiny little beachside community in the south of the South Island of Aotearoa, New Zealand. And I am a dog mum of 3 muttly pound puppies who are my absolute CEOs and rule my life. And I love writing. I love creating stories. I love sharing worlds and swoon-worthy mailman characters that you fall in love with and get to have a delicious time while you read.
Walnut,
what can we say?
Yeah, if you've not read any of the Nocturnal Heart series, when you do, you will have a good backlog of book boyfriends to refer to, just let me tell you. And book girlfriends. I mean, the female main characters are like, honestly, have changed my life about women in fiction because they're just so cool. Like they just have all the elements of like so cool. I don't feel jealous. I don't feel annoyed. I used to have this thing where I used to get really cross and triggered by females in like TV shows and things. Like I don't know, it's just a bit of like witch sisterhood wounding that I used to have. And
Bella Swans.
Yeah, it was just like, oh, you get the tick, like, oh, you're so irritating, you're so painful to watch, and a lot of it was just my like own personal baggage. But yeah, anyway, I digress because the characters in your books, Elliott Rose, are like, oh, it's not even I want to be you, it's just like I want to be your best friend because I feel like you already are mine. You know what I mean? Like you just write them so beautifully.
They're a lot of fun to write, and they're all witchy, fae, vampires, shifters. Like they're women that kick ass on their own. And there's a lot of my own personal little indulgences in there that I love writing female main characters who are, they've lived a little, they've had a life, they've been through some shit, like they're not just naive little heroines who get swept off their feet by the 3,000-year-old vampire. Like they are women who have been through some shit on the way, and the 3,000-year-old vampire comes in and they're basically going, hang on, buddy, like you might be hot, but I'm gonna
what's
give
in
you
it for
back some
me?
sass.
I'm gonna do me first, okay?
Yeah. I'm gonna give as good as I get. So they're a lot of fun to write because they basically don't they're not going to cower down to anyone either.
Yeah.
And they're perfectly capable of pulling a knife out, pulling some magic out, whatever they need to do.
Love it. I love it. Well, no, you've heard me swoon about this series so much. I just want to talk to you about it. So please, when you do, join my little recruits of walnuts who I've like swooned about the series to, so we can just like all talk about them, because I'm obsessed. And like it has really in working with you behind the scenes, in particular, Elliott Rose, on this, with the series, with you, it's opened up my like readership again, for sure. Like I used to work at a place that was sole charge, and I was by myself all the time, and it was only sort of busy in the lunch rush. It was right in Wellington City. And I used to read and read. I remember I'd like have really thick, huge books, and I'd smash them in a day because I just had this time. I had all this space to just sit and read, and then quickly talk to a customer, and then keep reading. And it was so beautiful. And along the way, with age and jobs, more full-time jobs and more like not sitting around jobs, I lost that little part of my self-care, I suppose.
Yeah.
And it has, from your books, it has reawakened that little like, oh, I can't wait to go to bed at grandma time, not like just normal grandma time, but like at a real grandma time, so I can just sit in there and read. And I love that. I also, well, not secret, I get the inside scoop. I have been alpha reading the new book 4 that's coming at the end of the month. And yeah, it's just really reawakened the treat that it is to read. And it's not because I know you and because I love you that I rave about it so much. It's like just genuine. I just am having such a good time. Yeah, I don't know.
You.
I don't have a question for you.
You're amazing. And yeah, it's so true, right? That like we often are, I don't know, we're not actively encouraged to keep it up as like a thing that we do, right? As like readers, right? Because when we're young, we have it practically like rammed down our throats that we're supposed to read all the time, and we're supposed to be, widely read, and we're supposed to be, you think of like at school, it's like everyone's obsessed with like, what's your reading level, and like, where are you at with like the books that you've progressed onto, and what you're reading, and how complicated is it? And I was like only child, little bookworm, fantasy world obsessed, had like like I can remember like one whole section of my wardrobe in my bedroom had a bookcase in it. So it was like, it was meant to be for clothes, but it was books, right? Like, so like, and that was me in my childhood. But then again, similar, like as I got older, life started to happen, and it's like all of a sudden you realize that thing you used to do all the time has fallen by the wayside. And it wasn't until I kind of got back into it myself that suddenly it was like the thing that I had always known I wanted to do was like back in front of my face in a very, very obvious way. And like reminding me like, well, when are you going to do this thing? Like, it's like, when are you going to do it? If not now, when? So here we are.
Yeah.
We're winning.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that you are. I'm just wondering, in a world full of just social media being the place and the place where everyone puts their energy and their time and all the things.
Yeah.
How is it for like an indie author from we're both open heart centers, like from a perspective of that comparison to other authors? Because I imagine, and I actually know for a fact, your feed is full of inspirational book buddies, all of the author world consumption. How do you like feel you know, like you own a place at the table, like that seat is where you're meant to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah. As you will know, that how I feel about that largely depends on where I'm at in my cycle.
Yes, yeah, true.
Hormones and the moon definitely play a big part in whether I feel like I have a seat at the table or not. But in saying that, yes, it is a lot of the mindset work to basically reassure yourself that, you know, as an indie author, like, which means that, for those who don't know what that means, is that that means that you are completely self-published, you are your own everything, you are your own marketing, like book compilation budget, you are your own, you're responsible for finding your own like team to help you get the book ready. So whether that's editing, whether that's proofreading, whether that's cover design, you know, if you go through traditional publishing, they handle all of that for you, and you largely don't get a say in it. Like it depends. There's some better newer publishing houses that have come out that I think do a lot more work with authors to bring them in as part of the process. But, you know, traditionally in the past, that was how it used to happen. They take care of all of that side of it. You literally are just responsible for writing the book and editing the book. And you even get told like when and where and how you will be marketing your book at the end of the day. Indie authors, you're responsible for all of it. So social media and building your social media presence and connections and things is really huge for indie authors, because it is how it's never been easier for us to sell books online, because we can connect through social media, but it also means that comparison can be a real thing because there are so many other authors that are in that online space. So I guess for me, the way I navigate it is that I'm very curated with who I follow. I tend to either mute or unfollow accounts that give me that sense of I'm doing something wrong or I'm not enough somehow, you know, through no fault of their own. Like, this is just my reaction or response to something. And I also like to find and follow authors who feel very expansive to me. So I'll always be talking to Laz about this, that, you know, I have my sort of hand-selected group of probably about 5 authors, give or take, that I follow quite closely. And that's because their energy resonates for me. The way they promote their books resonates for me. The way they talk to their community resonates for me. And I see what's possible through them. So there are people on that list who have literally, within the last 6 months, their books have gone viral, you know, online. And they've gone from being basically in my position where I'm at right now, and suddenly had this massive momentum thing happen with hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of readers finding their books and buying their books and coming into their world. And for me, seeing them do it in a way that feels really aligned for me has been really expansive. Whereas there are other authors out there that I've seen the way that they, I guess, have reached success or achieved success, and it maybe doesn't resonate for me, and that's perfectly okay, right? Like, their way was their way, and it's something that worked for them and resonates with them and will resonate with a lot of other authors. But for me, again, like you say, like trajectory vibes, open heart vibes, like open solar plexus vibes, like all of it, you know, I'm very careful about who I kind of use as my source of inspiration. And I'm very aware of the minute like there's something there that feels like, oh, comparison or doubting myself or whatever the case may be. It doesn't mean that those thoughts don't crop up. But yeah, it's definitely a journey, I think, as well. Like, and you can probably speak a lot to this with your Walnut, you know, work that you do, that it's okay to have the days where you feel like the comparison is really, really strong. Usually how many hours out from starting to bleed?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you're saying also like reigns true with just every day being a walnut life too, right? Like, I actually have done the same sort of clearing out of Instagram feeds and things, where when I've just noticed that was a part of my just not feeling good about myself. I was following like clothing labels that have just like all twigs in the clothes, like things like that. Like it really, we're in such a world of like high levels of consumption of everything. Like we're just so, what is that word? Just there's something in our face all the time that I thank you for answering that. That was really insightful. It's nice to know that, like, we're all like normal as well.
Yeah, I hope it makes sense, because it is very much that the key to it is that you do have to basically pull up the seat for yourself at the table. And that's one of the things that I guess for me, I came in to this knowing no one, knowing nothing, not having any previous connections. I was very much coming in, starting from zero with everything. I didn't even know anybody else who was writing, let alone writing romance, like it was just complete start from ground zero. And, I've had to kind of find my way around finding not only authors that I really feel expanded by and inspired by, but also finding other authors or people in the book community who I have become friends with over time. But that has been through me literally going and having to walnut the fuck up and like have the conversation, right? Like I've had to go and be in their DMs and be getting to know them and be like getting over any kind of fear of like, what are they going to think, or are they going to judge me, or because it's like being the introvert at the party, right? Like you have to at some point just sort of start dipping your toe in the water and having the brave conversations. And social media is very easy to start the conversation, and then it's just a matter of like, sticking it out, even if it doesn't happen straight away. Everyone's busy, right? So you kind of also can't take it personally if someone doesn't reply to your DM for a few days or whatever. Like, you really have to just be kind of willing to build those relationships. For me, it's been very, very organic and has just sort of evolved over time. And
I like the word organic, because it is just really like, the word that was coming to mind was like authentical, like it's just genuine relationships are built from that consistent chat, and it's all like from like a genuine heart place, and I think one thing that you do really really well with these connections is how you bring them onto your podcast. And it's also like a double dip, because it's like, oh, you get all the goss on author things, but also you like just chat with a new friend. Like it really is like that.
That's this, purely, I guess, like self-indulgent reason why I started my podcast, which is called Successful Witches. And it was really came from that energy of, I just wanted to be able to talk to other authors, in particular indie romance authors, because I was like, I desperately want to know your story and where you, like, how you got into this, what you've learned along the way, talk about your books, talk about your creative process. And I was like, well, fuck, like we might as well be recording these conversations so that other people can listen. And we have listeners that range from other authors to, just people who are genuinely fans of these authors and their books, who love seeing the insight behind, maybe talking about the creative process or how these books came to life and things like that. So that has been one of the most, for me, has felt the simplest way of being able to build a lot of those connections as well, because it's a great platform and way to be able to kind of say, hey, do you mind if we like jump on and have a chat, and we'll rave about your books and your characters and your creative process, and yeah, you just get to network and meet some amazing people through that
Yeah.
process. Yeah.
And listening to those episodes as well, it's just like you just feel like you're there, you're like having the conversation there with you, you know, like that. It's a really nice environment.
It's very
Even though it's in my
relaxed.
ears. Yeah, it's just
Probably
really
too relaxed, but
no, honestly, I think it's just so real. It's just so realistic. It's like it's not trying to be anything. It's just everyone's there for a good time, and I love it. And I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about how the romance genre had, I don't know if it's just sort of started to trend a little bit, or it started just picking up from, you know, book talk and all kind of that kind of thing. But I never had even thought about this world before. I remember like a few years ago, my friend was telling me all about her fairy porn, and I was like, this sounds great. I think I need to read some, but it never like, you know, it never like jumped up
yeah.
at me, you know, like I think I read 50 Shades of Grey when it came out when I was really, really young for the storyline. It actually kind of was a good story in the end. But that was as far as it sort of got in terms of like spicy things and smut. And then obviously I put the reading down for a good handful of years. But I'd love to know what you think about this trend of spicy smut that is
Well,
it seems to be. It
yeah.
I just not have noticed it, right?
I think it's probably a combination of things, right? That it's always been there. It has always been
Yeah.
the leading financially, the romance book genre is hands down the leading genre of book sales. Like it is a multi-billion-dollar industry. It's
Yeah.
just that the patriarchy doesn't want to fucking talk about that. They don't want to talk about the fact that the most books sold annually, year upon year, are smutty, spicy, aimed at women primarily, and written by women primarily.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But, you
Mm.
know, I'm going to assume based on my community of people that by far and large our like romance authors are women.
Yeah.
There are a lot of very good male authors out there, by the way. But, you know, so that's one thing, right? Is that it's always been there. It's always been a huge industry. It's just that there's a lot of patriarchal bullshit around the fact that people are either have either had experiences of being made to feel ashamed of what they're reading, or that it's not real reading, or that it's not intellectual enough, or just purely getting the piss taken out of them, right? Like, you know, there's probably a lot of people who've had that experience of, you know, particularly back in the day with those very like kind of what are they called, the step back covers, where like you had the kind of very like ravished looking woman like in the sort of flowing dress, and the Lothario man kind of like holding her and things, you know, like the Mills and Boon era of romance novels. Whereas now it is a whole, with indie romance particularly, and with social media particularly, we've now got this whole like sweeping thing going around the world where people who love these books and love romance, whatever your various different genres of romance are, because there are a lot of nuances within it, people are able to connect online and suddenly realize that, oh, I'm not alone in loving these kind of books. There are, in fact, millions upon millions of other people who all want to talk about their books on the internet, who all want to scream about the books that they love on the internet, because they're like, oh my God, like, I need to talk to someone about this book.
Yes.
And that's what social media has provided. And like you say, Les, that, you know, it's sort of now, I think as well, once you dip your toe in the world of it, it's like, what we've talked about this before, it's like the yellow Jeep analogy of like, you start seeing yellow Jeeps all the time. And I think once you're aware of it, you start realizing like, oh, you know, that person over there is reading that book, or that you see something on somebody's desk at work. I think you were saying the other day, you saw a copy of like Fourth Wing on somebody's desk at work and go, oh my God, like
And we're
kind of books do you love to read?
literally there talking about Smut for about 20 minutes before I actually asked her the work corporate question that I needed to ask her. And she was telling me a story about how she like got someone's name wrong and was chatting them all about the smutty book that she recommended, and it was the wrong person. It was some sort of like anyway. Yeah, it so is the yellow Jeep thing. Like it's everywhere. And one thing I was thinking when you were talking to me about how you were mentioning, like written by women. I think it was with you when we were having that really funny conversation about how men describe nipples.
Oh yeah.
It's just so much better when it's a woman that has them. Anyway, well,
there's a lot of very funny things out there of like quotes from books written by men about the female body, and like women just generally do a better job of describing male anatomy and things as well as their own physical anatomy.
A little bit, I have found in my little research. Oh, that's so funny. I love it. Elliott Rose, have you got anything that you would love to share with like a walnut listening that's sort of at the tip of your tongue at present?
I think like with what we've been talking about, I think there's a lot of people out there who maybe are curious of like where to start, or how to get started with reading, because I mean obviously like you start thinking about what do I read first, and the possibilities are endless, the possibilities are overwhelming, like it's almost like you don't know where to begin. So I almost wonder whether, and this is like real off the fly cuff coming in as we're talking, like what if we did something in the Walnut Tree that was a bit of a like beginner romance reader guide of like, we could do some book recommendations of like, if you're just starting out, these are some books that you might love, or beginner romance reads, because obviously like we could do a whole episode probably in itself talking about like reading dark romance, or like things that are really pushing the boundaries of what used to be published, because that's the whole thing, like the romance genre with indie publishing now and self-publishing, people can tell stories that are incredibly diverse that would never have been traditionally published in the past, because traditional publishers would only publish the things that were guaranteed like middle of the road bestsellers, like the rom-coms, the mysteries, the thrillers, the sort of the friends of the book world, the version of like what's going to be the guaranteed marketable success. And so if you came in pitching your male kind of taboo romance, or a polyamory kind of situation, or a dark romance, or like even getting into like paranormal fantasy that was very niche, traditional publishers would have never touched it, because they're like, no, people don't want to read about that. Turns out people do fucking want to read about these things.
Like so badly. I have discovered that I am a dark romance person. Like from my little journey starting with Sweet Inferno way back when, I have discovered I am a bit messed up in the head, but I am not alone. Thank you, Book Talk.
And it's hardly surprising, knowing your love of horror and, all of these things, right? And this is like taking it and adding sex in. It's like, what more could you fucking do?
And I think that's it for me as well. It's not just about the spicy scenes for me. Like it's the story. And funny story time actually about a friend of mine who like is always has been sort of an avid fairy porn reader. She started, I told her about this dark romance that I was on my list and I wanted to sort of start reading, and she was like, oh, I'm a little bit ashamed to say, but it's been one of my favorite reads this year, and it's actually made me get into horror movie. Like it's made me think I can actually probably handle some horror films and stuff. So then I ended up like recommending horror movies and like talking about even more stuff with her, so it's just really interesting how like it can really open up this particular, just romance books in general can open up a particular self-expression that was like left dormant somewhere in the inside the body. And one of my mentors, Carrie Russell, has started this whole thing literally just on reading spicy novels. It's just like has awakened something in her, and has just like she's just escalated her coaching world just from being able to express herself from this thing that is reading spicy books.
Yeah, because it lets you explore things in a book environment that you would possibly either never think about, never talk about, or never hear about unless you were to find it in a book. And it's a very low stakes way of kind of sitting with something and being like, oh, how do I feel about that? Like, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what I fucking love, because it does make you think. And we do have these sort of like sudden moments where we're like, oh, that's brought about something. Like even just what we were talking about right back at the very start about like having female main characters that are written who are curvaceous and powerful and sassy and, you know, like flipping the narrative of what so many movies or books or whatever, particularly over the last 30, 40 years have been, which have been like with women characters or main characters who are painted in a light that, you know, we just get frustrated with or whatever, or like, you know, they make stupid decisions and you're like, no, a person would not do that. Like, or, you know, like they would not do that.
Yeah.
You're like shouting at the screen.
Yeah. Like, stop.
Yeah. So it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
It's so cool. And it's so cool that I know you, because honestly, your books are so amazing. And Walnut, just before we like wrap up and before Elliott Rose and I start a little recommendation thread, if you want it, so do let us know. I will just quickly recommend the Nocturnal Hearts series by the Elliott Rose, who we have speaking with us now, because, and I have described it, Walnut, to like every single person that I talk to books about, as this beautiful, the series is like this beautiful, like Russian doll. And Sweet Inferno is a great beginner to see if you actually just are going to enjoy that. And then the second book, In Darkness Waits Desire, like it just builds on that. It's a bit more slow burny. It gives you another taste of a different sort of area of that kind of world, but also still creates that whole Nocturnal Hearts world that it is. And then The Queen's Temptation, which was previously my favorite, to book 4 coming really, really soon, that I have been lucky enough to have some snippets of, is my new favorite. And I feel like it's just going to continue because they just keep getting better. So Walnut, 100%, I will link it in here. It's all through the Walnut Tree anyway. It's all over my Instagram. The Nocturnal Hearts series by Elliott Rose. You just need to do it. Anyway, I just plugged that for you. I don't think you need to tell us where to find you.
I think we're done. I think you just like segued us out perfectly. Like I'll keep you on. You just come with me everywhere and give that little spiel for me. Thanks.
I mean, honestly, it comes out of my
pocket.
There's no short sentence about it. It always comes with this big long, like, I just love it. I just love your books. Elliott Rose, please tell the Walnut listening where to find you, where to like snoop all the things, aside from the Walnut Tree and all over my feed as well. If they want to just jump into your world on their own without me forcing everything.
Yeah. So you can find me in all the places at Elliott Rose Author, all one word. I am, as we're recording this, I'm newly joined to Threads, for any of those of you also enjoying that little playground. I'm on TikTok, on Instagram. Instagram's primarily where I hang out. And you can also find my books on Kindle Unlimited. For those of you who read on Kindle Unlimited, all my books are on there. Paperbacks are coming very, very shortly at the time we're recording this. So by the time it's out, paperbacks will be back in stock online, which I'm very, very excited, because we've had a full rebrand. Series have had new covers done. So that's very, very exciting. So you can get hold of paperbacks. And do I give the little like teaser that hardcovers are coming? Sure. Let's drop the little teaser that hardcovers are coming. What else can I tell you about where to find the things?
We've
Come
got a
hang.
podcast.
Oh yeah, Successful
This
Witches at
is amazing.
successful.witches is the podcast. And we do book reviews or book recommendations, I should say. They're not reviews, they're just basically raving, unhinged episodes talking about books, spicy books that we love. And then I also do a weekly interview with an indie romance author. So it's also a great way that you can find some new authors as well, different genres and different things. And it's just a whole lot of fun. Whole lot of fun world to come be part of.
It's so cool. Just come join Walnut. Just join in. And I will put everything in the show notes. And there are also previous episodes. And I don't think this will be the last time we have Elliott Rose on.
We've got some vampires to talk about once Vicious Cravings is out.
Walnut, I can't even contain myself. Yeah, we'll be. I'm just going to pause there because we will talk about it. Walnut, thank you so much for your time and for being here and for enjoying this chat with Elliott Rose and I. If you enjoyed this episode, take a little screeny shot and share and tag us and all the things. And do come back to me and Elliott Rose and let us know if you want me to plop something into the Walnut Tree about beginner recommendations. I know what I'll be putting straight on there, but do let us know. Thank you for your time. And Elliott Rose, my favorite person in the world. Thank you so much for your time. I love you, and I'll talk to you soon.
I love you. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.